Hola everyone! The other day I was thinking, perhaps foreign people who want to go to Spain with very low or zero knowledge about the Spanish language are curious to know if Spanish people really have a good English level to have a conversation in English. So, in this video, I'll try to cover the different situations I found so far Spanish people with the English language to discover if on average we can have a normal English conversation with Spaniards, or on the contrary, most Spanish people are good at English. From my experience, let's start. First of all, there are a few Spaniards who really can speak English quite well because they have some relative who has taught them English since almost their birth, such as their parents. This means that these people really have a native English level, and you won't have a problem understanding them. However, this is not the norm in Spain, and it may be a little hard to find them. The second option is to find a Spanish person who doesn't have English as a native language, but has attended a bilingual school since childhood. These people will really have a good English level as well. Again, usually, the bilingual schools are private schools, so this option isn't available to anyone. I heard some years ago that some public schools offer bilingual classes. However, this is very common to see in public schools, since most of public schools don't offer a bilingual education. The third option, and perhaps is the most common option, is to find Spanish people who learn English in a public school. Usually, only 3 English classes per week during the mandatory education, and usually the lessons are focused on learning grammar and vocabulary. Of course, in those English classes they are trained in listening and speaking. However, these are not trained in the same level as the reading and writing skills. Besides, lots of students don't practice English by themselves, apart of doing the English homework. So in the end, it's easy to find many students with 18 years old who have been studying English since around the age of 8, but they really can't have an improved English conversation and find it a bit hard to understand English, being worse at listening than at reading. Most people, when they finish the mandatory school, don't continue improving their English skills and start working or studying something which isn't related to being in contact with the English language. This means that the low English they learned over 10 years deteriorates, and over the past years they are unable to communicate in English. This is the most common case I found so far in Spain. A person who studied English at school because it was mandatory to pass the course, but once they finish the school, because they hasn't any interest on improving their English skills, in the end won't improve on it, and therefore they find it difficult to communicate in English. With all this, I don't want to say English lessons at public schools are very bad, because I found some people who really were interested in learning English and practice it by themselves, a part of the public school classes, and they end up being able to learn English. So the key to Spanish people who attend English classes at public school is to continue improving by themselves after doing the English homework and after school. Okay, so from here, there's a funny case that consists of a person who never was good at English despite studying it at a school, and when that person finishes the mandatory school, they don't continue improving their English skills. However, that person goes to the university, and in Spain, to get a degree certificate, it is mandatory to have a certificate which says that that person has at least an intermediate level of a foreign language. So most people opt to study English language again, because that's the foreign language in which they have more experience. Study hard, pass the exam to get the degree certificate, and then they become better at English than after finishing the mandatory school. So, if you find a Spanish person who has no interest in the English language and doesn't have a degree, it's likely that person will find it hard to have an English conversation. However, if you find a person who went to university, that person should have better skills at English. Again, it's quite important that the person continues improving their English skills after university in order to have a decent English level. So, from here, I say young people should have a better English level, especially if they went to university because of a mandatory level in a foreign language, than elder people. So, in the English skills, young people, perhaps around 35 years or less, should have a better English level than people who now are retired, because a lot of years ago, to know English wasn't as common as nowadays. Besides, with the easy access to the internet currently, is less people interested in learning English to really get these skills, and usually young people are the ones who use the internet most. So, in general, this would be how a Spanish person is in touch with the English language. To sum up, if learning English is not very mandatory or the fact that a Spanish person wants to learn, that a Spanish person is probably won't learn English. So, if you are in Spain and don't know Spanish, and you have to look for someone that can speak English, it should be easier to find a young person who can speak English between 20-35 years old than an elderly person. But even knowing this, sometimes it can be a little lottery and find the opposite. So that's all for this video. In this video I wanted to give you some insight about how the situation is for a Spanish person about the English language. So in the end, despite English having become the language of the world in most cases, it all depends on the interest of that person to learn it, which I think works for anything. And also this, I hope you found this video useful. If so, please give a like, subscription and comment. Adiós!